and your Modesto team. We're excited to be supporting your staff and teachers. We know this year's a little bit different from years past. So we are here to help, and hopefully what you see when I walk you through the teacher side of this program will help you for next week and for the rest of the school year. I know we're starting off the first month at least virtually. So note, when I'm talking about bell schedules and things that we're tying in with, we have worked with Matthew and his team, and we are using your virtual bell schedules to start off with. And any of the other kind of slight oddities that you've got going into this year, we are aware of the different setup, and that's how we're accommodating you initially. And then when we transition back into the classroom, we will adjust accordingly. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will jump in. Okay, great. So you should be able to see it now. You'll see in the top left, it says NetRef Teacher. That's how you know that you're on the teacher side of the program. And then the top right, it'll have your name, letting you know that you're correctly logged in with your appropriate account. As we go through this, we did it for the elementary teachers earlier. It worked out well. Just if you've got any questions, please place them in the chat box on the right. I will say, give it a minute or two before we start, before you have any questions, because I think we'll probably address most of the initial ones that come up at the beginning. And then after that, feel free to jump in and stop me. I'll work through each kind of segment, and then I'll take a look over and see how many chat questions have come up. And if we haven't already answered them, then we'll go through them. All right. So first things you'll notice, can everyone hear me? Sorry, I just saw Vincent just said he can't hear anything. Can everyone else hear me? I'm guessing it's on Vincent's end, but just if someone can chat, yes, they can hear me, then I know we're good.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, okay. But on my screen, you're strobing.
Hi, Harrison. What we're seeing is your screen is like a strobe light. It's like blinking on and off. It just got better right now.
Okay, I turned it off, so that's not a feature. So let's try it again, and then let me know what it's doing. Is that better?
Yes, it came through very clear now. It stopped strobing.
Okay, perfect. That was not how the user interface was supposed to look. Okay, great. So let's jump in. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice that we've got a list of classes over here. This is all going to be pulled from PowerSchool. And actually, let me take a step back. To get into NetRef, you all, if you don't know yet, you're using ClassLink this year. So you'll go to your ClassLink Launchpad, which, Matthew, what did you guys brand it as again?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Harrison?
The ClassLink Launchpad, what are you guys calling it?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're not calling it ClassLink. We're calling it MCS App Portal. Okay,
perfect. So you'll go to the MCS App Portal that you may have just recently received instructions on, and NetRef has an app. So it'll say NetRef faculty in your list, and then you'll click on that, and then that will automatically take you to what we're looking at here. So you'll see NetRef teacher in the top left, you'll see your name in the top right, and then as I was mentioning, you'll see all the classes that you have access to on the left-hand side. Now we are pulling this from PowerSchool, so whatever's in PowerSchool is going to be reflected in NetRef. And a little bit later, I'll show you how you can create custom classes if you have classes you need to set up that are not rostered within PowerSchool. So on the left-hand side over here, you'll see we've got East High School and West Middle. Know that if you do teach at multiple buildings, they will all show up for you. And then you can click on each school and you'll see each of the classes you teach at each school listed there. I'm guessing the vast majority of you are just at one building, so you'll just see one school and then your classes, but no, you should see multiple buildings if you do teach at multiple buildings. So I've selected Math 101 here, and then on the middle portion of the screen, you'll see we've got all of our students. So each student is represented by a square or tile. We've got Aaron, Ariana, Caitlin, Clara, Colin up across the top. You'll see your 20 or 30 students that you teach and what they're doing in real time. So you can see Aaron's on Khan Academy, Emily's on YouTube, etc. If I'm not sure what they're looking at, so if the thumbnail is a little small and let's say I see Emily's on YouTube, I can click on the plus button in the top right. It's a little magnifying glass. And when I do so, now we get a blown up image of exactly what's on their screen. So you can see this is Khan Academy, and then we can close it. If it's something that we see we don't want them to be on, like take Aaron here, we see they're on Instagram, looking at Taylor Swift account, we can click on Aaron, and then we have 4 rule options. So the little circle is in green right now, but if we click on the X, this is going to turn Aaron to red. So we've just turned off the internet for that device, or we've closed the tabs that they have open. So this will work. NetRef works on a Chromebook or on a Windows laptop that some of your students have. So it'll work on either one. And when we hit this red X, they'll get a message that says, hey, you're not allowed to go to this site. So if you do this for Aaron and you see, and he's on Instagram, obviously he's going to know you caught him off task. So you can send them a message while they're remote, or in the classroom, you can give them a quick nod and then turn the internet back on. So the top is really just your on and off switch. Bottom left, this changes Aaron's circle to orange. This is really neat. So this is where you can pick exactly what websites students can go to. So you could say, hey, you're only allowed to go to this testing website. So it could be Quizlet or something in Schoology. You can lock them exactly into that specific website or subdomain, a page within a website. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. The last rule is the block only. This is the block list, and you can see Aaron's now in purple. So in this scenario, you would be keeping the internet wide open. Let's say you're doing research, you can keep it open, but you don't want them going to YouTube. You can block just YouTube. So those are the 4 rules, and you'll see we've mimicked these. We've just applied it to Aaron. We've mimicked these same buttons over here on the right. So on the top right, if I hit the X, now you see everyone went to red. So we can control the whole classroom in one click with these buttons. So now I just disabled the internet for everyone, get their attention, or in the orange, I can now lock them into a specific website. And then finally, the block only, everyone's in purple. And again, use case for this would be if you wanted to block just a gaming site or YouTube, and then you wanted to have them have access to the rest of the internet. Now you pick your rules. Each teacher has their own list of websites that they're allowed to go to. You can access that where the globe icon is. So if I click on this little internet globe icon, this will pull up my allow list and my block list. To toggle between the two, this little switch. So I've got allow list here. Now I've got block list. So starting with the allow list, you can see we've got blackboard.com turned on. We could come down here. We could turn Schoology on. We could turn iReady on, Newsela. Any web-based programs that you use, this is where you would manage them. And if we need to add anything, we can come in here. Let's say it's Kahoot. So we can add Kahoot, and you'll just enter in the website. So if it's a .com website, make sure it ends in .com or .org. And then you put the display name, you can put Kahoot. That's optional. If you don't want to mess with the display name, you don't need it. You can just hit the plus. And you can see I've already added this rule. So it'll let you know if you already have that rule in your folder. But it'll add it. If not, it'll add it to this list. The really neat thing is, let's take YouTube, for example. So you can see we've got YouTube here, and there's a little drop down. If I click on this, you'll notice that there are 2 subdomains underneath YouTube. So for YouTube, these are really just videos. So we can turn these specific videos on and turn YouTube off. And now they can only go to those 2 websites. So really great way to just keep students on exactly what you want them to do. Same thing for Schoology. If I go to Schoology, I can copy and paste a section in Schoology that they're working on, and then they're only allowed to go there. The opposite of this is the block list. So for the block list, when I switch over, you'll see these are sites you don't want them on. So Netflix is in here, gaming sites, anything you don't want right now currently. if I want to create different, let's say I teach multiple subjects, I can create different folders of rules. So I just hit the plus button. Actually, let's go to the allow list. That'll be a better example. Hit the plus button, and then it says new folder. I can double click on it and rename it. So this could be period 5, or this could be my US history class. Now, when I create this folder, I can put exactly what websites I want to be part of this class. Or if you want, you can just keep all of your 100 websites or 20 websites in that general folder. I can hit save, and now it's part of my list. But before I do that, know that there's a little share button. So I can share this folder between other teachers. So if I've got a counterpart at the other high school that teaches US history and we want to share the same list to work off of, I can always do that. Or within the same building, if we've got several teachers that teach the same subject or similar things, we can keep track of our own list. Let me close out of this, and I saw a couple that popped up, a couple questions that popped up in the chat. So do the classes only show up that you teach if they're populated by the district only, or will classes also show if you have created classes? Bronwyn, for your question, it will be both. So any that the district, any that are coming from PowerSchool that are rostered will be in here. And then also you can create your own classes in the class options folder, which I'll show you here in a minute. Michael, you asked, this is only for during school hours, correct? Matthew, I'll let you address that question, but we can work at home as well as in the district too. Matthew, did you want to say anything to that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Harrison. What was the question?
So the question was, Michael Smith asked, this is only for during school hours, correct?
Yeah, so you're correct. NetRef, just like Land School, we only used it as teachers with student devices during the school time. So the hours that our school is open is when you can manage a student device, but not in the evenings. That's the students' time at their homes. They're out of school at that time. Thank you.
Perfect. Jeremy had a question. So by allowing a site, students will be able to access anything on that site and any links that keep them on that site. Yes, that's correct, Jeremy. So if you allow Schoology.com, anything within Schoology will work. Now, if you go to a very granular subdomain, like we saw, and you go Schoology.com/whatever, they're only going to be able to go to that one page. They can't leave it. So you can choose how you want to do it. So it's Alexis had a question. Do you have to dismiss the class period? Do you have to release them? Another similar question. So let me show you that. Good question. We will sync up with your bell schedule, and this is where I mentioned we're going to work with your virtual bell schedule at the beginning, so I know everyone middle and high are all on the same schedule. So we know what time the class period ends, and what NetRef will do is automatically apply a rule for you. So if you block all of your students, if you have everyone in red, you don't have to worry about dismissing them. NetRef will come in here and turn everyone to green. Now, as a best practice, it helps to, if you remember, just to turn everyone to green. And also the next teacher that inherits those students can also override previous teachers' rules. But NetRef will be running on a bell schedule so that at the end of the class period, if students are blocked, everyone's going to go to green so that they can go to their next class period allowed. So we just went over the block and allow list for websites. If I click on the next button down here, this is for applications. This is for apps. So you may not see it showing up. If you're logged in right now, you won't see this if no students are logged in with Windows devices. This logo only shows up when we detect that someone's using a Windows device in your class. And that's because Chromebooks obviously you're just managing the internet. But if you do want to manage applications, you click on this and you'll see we've got Chrome, Excel, Microsoft Word, Edge. So you can manage multiple browsers if you wanted to. Let's say they were writing an essay and you didn't want them getting distracted with the internet. You can lock them in like we've done here. It says Microsoft Word. Now they're only allowed to go to Word. And to apply that rule, it's the same thing we did for websites, except now the button's right here. You'll see when I click on the allow only that the app logo just changed to orange. So now they're only allowed to use Word. If they try and open up Chrome, the Chrome browser will close. Same thing with the websites. The block list is just by accessing the block list is just toggling here. Now we've got blocked applications. So I can block Minecraft or Word. I could say you can't use Chrome right now. And then again, apply the rule by clicking on the block only this time, and you'll see the little app icon turn to purple. So I'll close out of here. We saw with the websites that if you want to add one, you can just type it in at the top here. So you can type in weather.com, for example. Another neat way to add this is just by right-clicking on the student. So if you see Terrence is on Khan Academy and say, oh, that's a good website, I want to add it to my allow list, I can right-click and I can add that site to my allow list. Or I can go to it. If I'm not sure what it is, I can click on visit site and it will open up that website in a new tab for me and I can check it out. I can add it to my block list. I can close the website. I can push a website to the class. So if I see everyone at Khan Academy, or if I see Terrence on Khan Academy and I want to get everyone on the same page, just hit push site to class and now it'll open up a tab for everyone. I can push an individual site to a student and I can send a message. So when I send a message, I can come in here and say, hey, please get back on task, or whatever you want to send, and it'll show up on the bottom right of the student's machine. Questions that came through. Do all of our computers have this already installed, or is it on the app portal? So Jennifer, this should, I think as of today now, every student has this pushed to Windows machines and Chromebooks. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matthew, but I think they've all now been pushed now. I heard my sound is breaking up. Is it still okay now? Okay, I'll assume that it is. So sorry about that. The internet connection is not great, but we'll just keep working through it. You can see where we've got the message icon. So if you right click, you can send a message to an individual, but if you hit the message icon now, I can select the entire class or individual students, and I can send a message to 5 students, 1 student, 10 students. Type in my message down here on the bottom, and then hit send. Same thing for if I want to push websites, I can push websites here, select whatever student I want to push the website to, type in the website here, and hit push. Lastly, on the right side, you can share screens. So I would select Aaron, Ariana, Caitlin. I'm now, as a teacher, going to share with the rest of the class. So I can hit broadcast, and now I would be sharing my screen. I can select the application just like you do in Teams or Zoom with the rest of the class. Mark, you've got your hand raised. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. I am going to really quickly move locations to see if I can get a better connection to my internet, and that way the sound won't go in and out. So bear with me 1 second as I walk in my house closer to the router, and we'll see if that helps. If it keeps going, I can try calling in, but I was getting feedback yesterday when we did it for your team. Okay, so continuing on. Also on the bottom right, you'll see that we've got a little toggle. You can switch between screens and tabs here. So right now we're looking at the screen view, but if I switch it, you'll see we have tabs. So the top site with the little favicon, so for Instagram, we see the little Instagram favicon, is what they're currently working on. And then below that, you can see Caitlin was on Amazon before Duolingo, and before that, she was on Reading Plus. So it's up to you as a teacher. Some people like this view better, and others like this with the screens, or you can just toggle between the two. So that's a really neat little switch down there at the bottom where you can switch views. Okay, so class options. Let's jump into class options here. With class options, this is where we saw a couple questions about, can I build my own classes outside of PowerSchool? So this is where you would do that. Top left, you'll see we've got the little add class button. When I click on this.
Harrison, your screen is frozen. You're stuck back on the screen view.
How's that? Are we on class options now? Are you guys with me?
You're good, thank you.
Okay. But I don't know that it even saw the tabs, you changing the tabs before.
Okay, let me go back to that then. Sorry guys, I was hoping to get better sound and it looks like all I did was kill the video. So bear with me a second.
Hey, this has been good. We see the expert struggling. We'll feel better about it when we go live.
There you go. So on the bottom right, this is where I was talking about the screens and the tabs. So if I switch over, you'll see the tabs now. If we we'll give it just a second here. This is all simulated data. They're going up every 10 or 15 seconds, but you'll see what I was talking about earlier where everyone right now only has one website. The top website with the little favicon, so you'll see YouTube, for example, under Philip. That is what they're currently working on. And then you'll see two websites below that. That's the site they were on before YouTube and then the one before that. It will show the three most recent tabs that the students have. Let's just give it another second. And if not, we'll come back to it in a little bit. But you can keep toggling back and forth as much as you want between screens and tabs. Obviously, the students don't know. So, with the screen view, it's always going to update every time they go to a new site. So you really don't have to worry about students trying to switch tabs. And, if we were in the classroom and when you walk over, they quickly switch tabs, you'll still be able to see that. There we go. So you can see Philip was on K12.com. And then before that, he was on Yahoo and Google Slides. So that's exactly what you would see on your students. And then if you say, all right, well, I want to see what Philip's working on K12.com, I can switch to a screenshot. Now we're looking at the screenshots. So going back to the class options, that's on the bottom left here. This is where you can add a class. So we can call this a call or a robotics club, whatever's not rostered in PowerSchool. Hit next and just add our students. So it's really simple to build your own class. You can search for them if you need to, and then make sure you drag them over to the assigned students column on the left-hand side. And now we've got Emily, Lyle, and Tanya in this study hall class that we created. And if I hit save, they would show up here as a new study hall class. Additionally, in the top right, you'll see we can sync with Google Classroom. I don't know how many of you use that, but you'll just click sync and type in tie your account to NetRef. And then when you add a new class to Google Classroom, that class will be mirrored in NetRef. There's some other neat things you can do in here. So we know PowerSchool isn't, sometimes the state requires classes to be coded differently. You might have ELL students, gifted students, SPED students, regular students that are coded differently, and maybe it'll create multiple classes. If you don't want multiple classes, if you just want to view everyone in one view in NetRef, you can check these classes and then hit merge, and we'll create one class. So if you have 5 classes of 5 students and you just want one class of 25 students, you can merge them all together to view at the same time. Additionally, if you've got classes that maybe they're from a different semester, or you just have classes that you don't really teach added to your list from PowerSchool, you can hide them. So there's a little I button over here on the far right, and you'll see when I click on this, I'm clicking on a bunch of classes, and on the left, you'll see my classes are disappearing. So I can hide those from my view if you think that they're just kind of getting in the way and you have too many classes you don't really need access to. And then, of course, you can just click on the I button again. Now I'm unhiding them, and I'll have access. Another thing that came up actually in the earlier call today with some of your colleagues is one teacher had just world history. So there's 7 world history classes and they couldn't distinguish between them. You can edit the name. So you can go into the little pencil button, and instead of Math 101 here, I can call it first period. And then I can go to second period, third period, etc. And then that makes it a little bit easier for you, on the left-hand side now, instead of Math 101, I see first period. We had a question Vincent said earlier, how do I know which Philip? So let me show you that. We're now done with the class options. There's some preferences that each teacher has access to. So if I go back to first period, if you have multiple Philips, let's say you don't want to look at first name, if you click on your name and then click preferences, you've got some options. So I can see just the student's last name on the tile, or I can see both. I can also switch between the URL and the tab title. So URL obviously is just youtube.com, but if you switch to tab title, that would show up here, you see at the top where it says classroom-netref in my tab. YouTube will show you the video name. So you can play around with that. If you'd rather see the tab title, you can do that instead of the URL. Also, the tile sizes, you can make those larger if you want to. So if you want to see fewer students on the screen, but you want to see a big tile, you can make those large. Did that answer your question? Whoever asked about the multiple Philips. Now, if we go back, we've got the last three things on the teacher side. We've got the reports. So we've got a student report, a class report, and what's called the engagement report. On the student report, and we'll let this load, but I'll talk to it. So we've got four different things across the top. You can select whatever class you want to. So I've got first period selected now, but I could select Science 201 if I wanted to. Any of the classes I as a teacher have, that's where these would go. Then you would select the appropriate student. So you can go in the drop down and you can select whichever students you want to from first period. And then over here on the right, I can select a different time frame. So you've got the ability to put in a custom time frame, or it could be yesterday, it could be the last month, it could be the entire school year if you wanted to. So these are all really neat reports that I think will be even more maybe beneficial while students are remote. So right now we're looking at Aaron, we're looking at just today. The unique sites is just the number of sites he visited. This is spread out across the day, so you can see it. 9 a.m. he went to 4 sites, and at 12 p.m. he went to, in this case, it's just simulated data, but let's say it's 20 sites. So you'll see a bar graph here. I can look at the total time online he spent during this day. So this will give us an understanding of, hey, were they doing most of their work at 9 a.m. or were they doing a lot of their work in the afternoon? And of course, that'll change given on the time frame that you look at. If we're looking at the day, it'll break it down per hour. If we're looking at it from the course of 3 months, it'll show you the past 3 months. So it would show you August, July, and June. On the right, we've got a pie chart. So this is the on-task, off-task pie chart. On-task denotes students that have been going to the websites that are in your allow list. So since those are in your allow list, we just assume that these are the sites you want them to be on, and then we'll show you what percentage of the time they spent online were on those sites versus different sites. Scrolling down a little bit further, and actually let me change student really quickly, get more data. We have the top sites. So the top sites show you, for whatever time frame you want, their top 50 websites they've spent time on. So in Caitlin's class, in my first period, her top sites were biography.com, YouTube, Pandora, Tumblr, Google Classroom. Right here, there's an orange button where I can download this report, and this might be a good one to share with parent-teacher conferences. So you can print this off and say, hey, Caitlin's got a C in my US history class, maybe because she's distracted, she's been on Netflix or YouTube for the vast majority of time, whatever it is. Or you can print it off and say, hey, these are great websites we use in class. These would be good ones for you to use at home. Last report on the student side is the rule application. So this just shows you as a teacher, what types of rules, of NetRef rules, have I applied to Caitlin during first period. So for most of the time, we keep the internet wide open, but then I have used the block allow and block only with Caitlin too. jumping over to the class report, this has the exact same data that we had on the student report, except now all of this data is aggregated and rolled up into first period. So for first period, now we're looking at, let's say I have 30 students in the class, I'm looking at all of that aggregated data. Again, we've got time spent on allowed sites, unique sites. These are the same reports that we had before, except at the bottom, we've got a really neat one here that is just for class reports. So for this one, you can select whatever website you want to. So I can go to, let's see, since you guys use Schoology, we'll use Schoology. And now when I look at Schoology, we're looking at my first period class, and I can see some students are in red, some are in green. What this means is we're taking the average time that each student spends on Schoology, and we're comparing that to their peers. So anyone in green is showing within the norm. They're within one standard deviation of the average of these students. On the right, they're in red because they're outside the norm on the positive side. So they spend more time than the rest of their class in Schoology. Those on the left, we've got Aaron, Dallas, Kirk, and Lyle. They spend less time than their peers on Schoology. So if there's a website you use that you know contributes to learning and is something they really need to be using a lot, this would be a great report to run and identify really quickly those students that aren't meeting the benchmarks that the rest of the class is meeting. Let me switch back and see. Can you change the order of the classes on the left? No, Andy, unfortunately, this is all just done in alphabetical order over here on the left. So if you did want to move them, you can change how they're spelled and just know that these are all alphabetical order. Okay, last report we've got is the engagement report. So this is one that we specifically built within the last 2 months for the situation for COVID and the distance learning that's going on. So what this does is we try and track engagement based on which students meet certain thresholds. Those thresholds are they need to spend X amount of time on these approved websites. So again, I can select a class period. I can then select a date range. And let's change it to last week. And we'll run this for first period. So this is fictitious data, so it's not the best. You'll see it when you run the report, and I'll explain it to you. But there's an engagement tag filter. When I check this means that students are only getting credit for time spent on the sites that your district team has deemed as educational or should count toward time online. So Matthew and his team will be setting up this tag, and what it does is it tags any sites like Schoology, Khan Academy, educational sites, and it says, okay, our district uses these, and we want these to count toward engagement. And then you as a teacher can run a report and say, okay, if you want your students spending 120 minutes on the online educational tools, you can put in the threshold of 2 hours a day. And we can see on July 27th last week, it was great. We had 100% of our students met that threshold. On last Friday, well, it dropped to 99, but let's say it dropped to 88% or 80%. And you can follow this over the first month of the year and really keep track of the trend and make sure that your students are engaged and meeting the benchmarks you put in place. Over on the right, we'll aggregate that for the time period. So if you look at a month, we'll give you a quick percentage and say, okay, for the month of August, 90% of your students were engaged, which is, pretty good. If we scroll down, this will show you all the students in your class. So in this case, we selected first period. We don't have any examples here because everyone's met the threshold, but anyone that does not meet, let's say 90 minutes a day on Schoology and Khan Academy, for an example, they would get an A next to their name. So Clara would have an A on July 27th if she didn't meet that mark. And that means that she was absent, which obviously, it's not a physical, you can't check them off and say, hey, you're physically here. But NetRef can track and make sure that student met the required amount of time online for that day. And that's how you can give them a score. Now, I don't think you guys are going to be using this for actual attendance. So think about it more as the report is called as engagement, and making sure that students are, on task and going to the appropriate websites during the school hours. And of course, you can download this report just like any other ones. If you have a pie chart you want to download and share, you can also click on this and save the image as a PNG or JPEG file. So let me go back to the main screen, and I'm going to go back to the chat window. There's our study hall class, and see what other questions came up. Let's see. Sorry. We had, how do I edit my classes on the left side? So who is that? Vincent, did you see that? So editing your classes on the left side, you'll go to class options.
Yeah, I did figure it out. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll skip that, but you see the little pencil button on the right to edit it. All right.
Hi, Harrison. This is Matthew. I had just been away. Was there any other questions I needed to clarify that you had come up so far?
I don't think so. I think everything makes sense and is, yeah, I think we're all set. There are just a couple new questions that came up. Andy said that he changed the names of his classes and they didn't reorder. Andy, we can take a look at that for you afterward. I'll log into your account. Let's see. On my end, my NetRef account is not showing the button to add the block and allowed list. Justin, are you referring to this over here, this little, the app, the allowed application? If you are, so you'll have two buttons. This top one right here, the one that looks like a world, a globe icon, that's for websites. And this next one that is here, let's make it a little more visible, is for applications. If there are no Windows machines that we detect as being present in your class right now, then it will not show up. And since students aren't in right now, I imagine many of you may not see this yet. Just know that if you teach a class where students have Windows devices, even just one, this icon will show up for you, and then you can manage those applications. What else, everybody? Any other questions that come up? Of course, if you go to the top right, we've got Matthew's going to send out this recording, but we also click on your name, go to the support page. We've got these videos. So you may have seen the long, not the long, but 22-minute recorded video that was sent out. But you've also got little snippets, so 3 to 5 minute videos. If you want to go back and say, I don't really quite understand how to create an allow list, click on the allow list and block list, and you can watch that specific video. Another neat thing, if you scroll to the right, there's an FAQ page. These are GIFs. So I can come in here and say, how do I control a student? Then I can say, all right, I want to allow list a student. I want to lock them into just a particular website. Click on this, and then you can watch the little GIF. And now you see exactly how to put a student into the allow list mode. So there's some helpful tips here if something comes up. And then, of course, we're here. So we know you guys have a lot going on this year. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to our team. But we'll give it a couple minutes here. Any other questions? Matthew, do you have any final thoughts before I guess we jump in on Monday?
So I think you might have mentioned it. So you'll start to see your students that will be turned on that side on Monday, August 10th, where you actually start to see students in this tool. We're going to continue to offer NetRef training within my department. So definitely take a look at the PD catalog, and there'll be information coming out of our PD webinars and training for all teachers on a variety of ed tech topics, including NetRef. And just know that my team is here. So the tech trainers, Alexandra, Angela, are here to help and support with how to use NetRef and help you get started.
Great. Well, thanks, Matthew. Thanks, everybody, for your time. And again, we're here as well. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And good luck with everything starting on Monday.